Hello, this is Liyus. Welcome to the ZIGZAG Podcast, where we talk about everything related to automotives and technology. In this episode, we will discuss the current state of the EV market, the supply and demand factors, the feedback and opinions from the consumer, the future plans and concept for EVs, and the impact of EVs on the economy and the environment. So let's get started.
The EV market is booming, with sales expected to leap 35% this year at a record-breaking 2022, according to the International Energy Agency. The global sales of electric cars are set to reach 14 million this year, expanding their share of the overall car market to close to one-fifth. This explosive growth means electric cars are leading a major transformation of the auto industry that has implications for the energy sector, especially oil. By 2030, electric cars will avoid the need for at least 5 million barrels a day of oil. The overwhelming majority of electric car sales to date are mainly concentrated in three markets: China, Europe, and United States. China is frontrunner, with 60% of the global electric car sales taking place there in 2022. Today, more than half of all electric cars on the road worldwide are in China. Europe and the United States, the second and third largest market, both saw strong growth, with sales increasing 15% and 55% respectively in 2022. Ambitious policy programs in major economies such as Fit for 55 package in the European Union and the Inflation Reduction Act in the United States are expected to further increase market share for electric vehicles this decade and beyond. By 2030, the average sales of electric cars in total sales across China, the EU, and the United States is set to rise to around 60%. The supply and demand factors that drive the EV market are complex and interrelated. On the supply side, the availability of and cost of batteries, the key components of the EVs, are crucial. The battery technology has improved significantly in recent years, with a higher energy density, lower costs, and longer lifespan. The average cost of the battery package has fallen from $1,100 per kilowatt hour in 2010 to $137 in 2020, a drop of 87%. The IEA projects that the cost will decline further to $100 by 2024 and $58 in 2030. The battery production capacity has also increased rapidly, with China dominating the market with more than 70% of the global output. However, the battery supply chain faces challenges such as the availability and sustainability of raw material, the recycling and reuse of batteries, and the geopolitical and trade risk. On the demand side, the consumer preference, the price competitiveness, and the policy support are key factors. The consumer preference for EVs are influenced by various aspects, such as the environmental awareness, the performance and design, the charging convenience, and the social norms. According to a survey by the Elite, 51% of consumers are now considering either a new or used EV, up from 38% in 2021. The price competitiveness of EVs depend on the upfront costs, the operating cost, and the total cost of ownership. While EVs are still more expensive than conventional cars in terms of upfront costs, they have lower operating and maintenance costs, which can offset the initial premium over time. The total cost of ownership of EVs is expected to reach parity with conventional cars by the 2020s. The policy support for EVs is also crucial, as it can provide incentive and regulation to stimulate the demand and overcome the barriers. The policy measures include subsidies, tax credits, rebates, exemptions, mandates, standards, targets, and infrastructure development. The feedback and opinion from consumers about the current EV options available on the market are diverse and evolving. Some consumers are satisfied and enthusiastic about their EVs, while others are hesitant and skeptical. Some of the common themes that emerge from the consumer feedback are, EVs are fun to drive with smooth acceleration, quiet operation, and high-tech features. EVs are good for the environment with zero tailpipe emission, low carbon footprint, and renewable energy integration. EVs are economical with lower fuel and maintenance costs, tax benefits, and resale value. EVs are reliable with fewer mechanical problems, longer battery life, and better safety ratings. EVs are convenient with home charging, fast charging, and smart charging option. However, as I said previously, there are those that are still hesitant and skeptical. And here are some of them who also face challenges and frustration with their EVs, such as EVs are expensive with high upfront costs, limited availability, and financing difficulties. EVs have limited range with anxiety about running out of battery, insufficient charging infrastructure, and long charging time. EVs have quality issues with recalls, defects, and software glitches affecting some models and brands. And lastly, EV have social issues with stigma, discrimination, and vandalism from some segment of the society. The opinions of consumers about EV's charging station are also mixed and varied. Some consumers appreciate the convenience and the accessibility of charging station, while others complain about the cost and the availability of the charging station itself. Some of the common phrases that consumers use to describe their experience with the charging station are: I love the Tesla supercharger network, it's fast, it's reliable, and easy to use. And there's someone say, I wish there were more charging stations near my home and work, it's hard to find a vacant spot. Again, there is also like this: I avoid the public charging station, they are dirty, crowded, and unsafe. The future plan and concept of EVs are exciting and innovative, as automakers and startups are competing to offer new models, technologies, and services. Some of the upcoming EVs that are expected to launch soon are Acura ZDX, Alfa Romeo Giulia EV, if you ever heard about the Apple car, and there's the Ioniq 6 that actually already been released, and more for sure. There's a lot of them coming up to the market. And some of the future concepts that are expected to shape the EV industries are, electric flying cars, maybe the technology of the solid state batteries, which is actually something great to talk about in future topics. Then you got vehicle to grid, which basically a system that allows EV to communicate and interact with the electric grid, enabling a bi-directional power flow. And this is a very detailed topic to discuss, so probably for the solid state batteries and vehicle to grid topic, we can discuss about it in a different episode. And the impact of EVs on the economy and the environment is significant and multifaceted, as EVs affect various sectors, regions, and stakeholders. Some of the main impacts of EVs are, economic impacts. Here where EVs can create new jobs, technically, industries and market, as well as save money for consumer and business. Just imagine, I got one example from my closest friend that recently just purchased his first electric car, and he told me that if in a week he would spend around 350,000 rupiah, or 350,000 rupiah for refueling his car with a standard petrol. When he uses electric car, he said that probably I'll only spend around 40k rupiah for just charging his car. So you can see that it really saves quite huge amount of money for him when it comes to operating these electric cars. But again, as you heard about the complaints I mentioned previously from various users, the most common one is actually infrastructure. Some nations are lagging behind when it comes to preparing this infrastructure for electric car user. Usually you'll find one area has tons of electric cars charging, parking, charging bays, and then you go to another area which is just close by and probably only a few kilometers away, and you'll find nothing there. So people end up going to that very one spot, and it will be very crowded. And charging charging an electric car is not like refueling a normal gasoline engine car. is because now you gotta wait for that car to actually fully charge, which could take around 30 minutes to 40 minutes, or even up to an hour. But when you come to fueling a car, you only take around 10 to 5 minutes to fill up the car, and yeah, you're ready to go. So actually, that's about it. I think that makes a lot of sense why the growth of electric cars in some nations are rapid, but also there's some nation where the growth of electric cars are very slow, and doesn't make a very big impact actually. But according to a study by the World Bank, EV production can increase productivity, gross value added, and job creation in developing countries with a relatively small impact on the environment. Now, according to another study by the International Renewable Energy Agencies, EVs can reduce the global oil import by around $1.5 trillion by 2050 and generate $18 trillion instead in additional GDP by 2050. Of course, this data actually depends on which country you are and the kind of incentive that your government actually provide to the citizens of that very specific country. And if we're gonna talk even further about electric cars, it's actually the way of using it. I think when it comes to using electric cars, there's a bit of a change of habit. Back then, if you're currently a electric car user, and before that you're just a normal petrol power car user, then you understand what I mean when it comes to change in habits. If you're using a normal gasoline car engine, you'll have to allocate this certain amount of time just to refuel your car. So for example, your car is nearly running out of gas, so you just need to have a few of your minutes of your travel time allocated for you to refuel your car. But then if you are currently a electric car user, then there's no need for the allocation of charging your car, unless you're really in the middle of your trip, where your trip is around 800 to 1,000 kilometers and your car range is only 500 to 400 kilometers, so it makes a lot of sense that you'll charge in the middle of the way. But then if your daily trip will only be 100 to 200 kilometers, there's no reason for you to stop in a rest area and then charge your car. You'll probably charge your car at home and leave it through the night, and when you wake up, you find your car is fully charged. That's why there's a bit of a change of habit, and there's some people saying that if you have an electric car, you'll probably be more productive. Not only you'll be more cost efficient in your daily operation, but also you'll be much more productive as you're able to use your time properly. There's no such thing as you gotta stop for your gas and so on and so on. And the way I see it, some teenagers enjoy it, but there are some parts of the group that does not enjoy it. Some of them are actually I call no, how should I call them? But mostly basically they are the people. This is a group of people who actually really enjoy using petrol or diesel engine and find it very hard to actually move to using an electric car unless they're forced to. But at the same time, they have no good reason why they don't like electric cars. So it's quite funny that they have no good reason why they don't like it. At the same time, they have no good reason why they think it's something that they need to buy. So yeah, it's quite funny to think about it. And I think it's just a matter of time actually that governments around the world will start putting more incentive and probably regulation that makes us citizens, whether you could afford it or not, that you need to have a transportation that is green and sustainable, knowing that we are really in deep trouble over a long period of time when it comes to global warming. And so I think it's a good job that most teenagers have raised the concerns. It's a good job that these young people are starting to really be more vocal, spreading the concerns about the global warming, and people are starting to be aware, and we're trying to shift to a new alternative way of being more sustainable and more clean, greener. But of course, we gotta take note that not everything in this world is green. Actually, even there's some complaints out there in the internet, wherever you look at, and that EVs are also not considered to be a green solution. It looks green at the finished product, but the process of the electric vehicle is not clean. That's what they say, and somehow some of the documents, some of the reports actually makes a lot of sense, which again, this further increase the doubts and the hesitant of people willing to buy or invest in this kind of technology. But we're still a long way to go. There's still a long way of research needs to be done. As I said, we need to talk about the solid state batteries, because that will be a game changer for electric cars around the world. And I think it's something that most car manufacturer, most electric car enthusiasts, and most electric car user are looking forward, because it offers a much wider option for them. And I think that's it for today's episode. It's not a very long episode actually, but I like it this way. Hopefully the next episode I'm able to make it more interesting, but this is my first one. So probably in the next episode, let's talk more about technology. I've recently just purchased a Samsung Flip 5. I would like to talk about it so much. I already have it for around 2 months now, and actually it's a very interesting phone to use. I really use it in a very different way, in a very different style, sometimes even using it in a very odd way that you might not even expect to use your phone like that. So stay tuned and look after for that second episode, as we're gonna talk about Samsung Flip 5. And that's it for today's episode. Thank you for listening until the end. My name is Liyus, and I'll see you again in the next episode. Goodbye. Cheers.